Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's adventure, Boomer and I are out on a kind of a mid-fall to early fall hot tent adventure. As you guys can see, we've got a very nice large room in this tent to work with. We've got the beginning of fall color in this entire forested area, which is going to be very, very nice. It is sunny a little bit with a lot of overcast. These clouds are supposed to push in later this evening, so hopefully that'll bring out a beautiful amount of contrast and color in this forest, which I'm really hoping for. So I did not bring a stove with me, and by that I mean a canister stove or twig stove. The only method I have of heating things up and cooking is the wood stove inside of the tent, or the campfire, which I'm going to be building out front of here. I have camped in this location before a few times, so I'm very familiar with the area, and that means I can get a hot coffee on the go with this water. Once I get my pot and stuff out of the backpack, get it situated in the tent, gather up a little bit of wood, get a small fire going in there just to make some hot water, and then continue on with the day. Alright guys, I've got a cup of hot coffee on the go right now. The stove is just starting to die out. Not really worried about that. I've got loads of wood prepped inside of there to spark up a fire again. I will be cooking on that later on, and there are plenty of fallen trees around here. Next to the tent and in front of the tent and beside the tent, all kinds of firewood in this area. So right now I'm just going to kick back and relax for a moment. The clouds are starting to set in, which is really nice, and this coffee is super relaxing, nice and warm. So I'm just going to enjoy this scenery here as the fall leaves are changing colors, and then we'll get started on collecting some firewood. Alright guys, it's getting quite late in the day and I do really got to get started on supper. I've got a load of firewood inside of here. That's definitely going to be enough for the night as it's not terribly cold. We're probably going to come into maybe about 5 degrees Celsius to 8 degrees Celsius overnight, which is not that bad. My sleeping bag is rated for -18, so I'm definitely not going to be cold. It's just nice to have the creature comforts of the stove to heat up coffee, a little bit of light, and to dry out some damp, wet clothing. So I am going to burn some of this split wood that I have, or this cut wood that I have. Some of it is split in these little pieces here, which is bone dry. It's going to make this stove take off really quickly. While this is burning, I'm going to start on supper. And basically when I'm all finished up with supper, I can let this burn out again and then move over towards the campfire for later on this evening. So let's get the stove lit. Alright guys, supper is all done. Evening is very quickly approaching, and this fire is definitely needed. The night air is starting to set in, and oddly enough, the mosquitoes are still a problem. It's really warm right now for me to put my sweater on in front of the fire, but moving away, the mosquitoes are actually out. They should be gone within the next hour, hour and a half once the cold air sets in. But yeah, this is definitely needed. So cracking into a cold one. Boomer is asleep inside the tent next to the wood stove already. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a pretty peaceful evening out here by the fire. I did get lucky enough and find a bunch of these little slabs of hardwood kind of kicking around. This is an area where people do camp, and oddly enough, this is not too strange to come across. It's odd that it's still left here after summer, but it's not abnormal to come across it in the woods. People use a chainsaw, cut up wood, and just leave the rounds sitting there. So I collected a few of these rounds, which I just found kind of just laying around here, split them down with the axe, loaded the wood stove with these. They are very, very dense and dry. So toss a couple of these in this fire out here too, just to cut down on the embers. And I did cut mostly softwood, so this stuff is actually going to help quite a bit. And like I said, I've got a bunch of chunks of this stuff, very, very dense. Looks like maple. But yeah, this is going to burn really nice, low and slow. And basically just going to kick around out here for the evening, enjoy the campfire. Supper was really good, super simple, just basic ramen and one little tiny red onion. Very simple, and a spinach tortilla wrap. Super simple, super quick and easy to make. No hassle over the fire, no hassle cooking an elaborate meal. I just wanted to kick back and relax on this adventure as summer is now ended. Thank goodness, because I am excited for fall. I want to see frost. I want to see frost on the log, frost on the rock, frost in the trees. I want to wake up the frost, so that's coming very soon. And we'll get out of this hot and sweaty and kind of muggy late summer, early fall weather, which I don't really care for. So I'm going to relax in front of the fire for probably a few hours this evening before making my way inside of the tent. And like I said, I've got loads of wood inside the tent, so having a nice little ambient fire in there is going to be very nice. It will cool off later on this evening, and the wood stove will actually be useful with the tent door wide open. But I'm certainly not going to be sleeping with that stove lit, just way too hot. Plus my sleeping bag's very, very warm. So, time to relax and enjoy the campfire. Alright guys, so chilling out here next to the fire, and I've just been staring at this little log. Like I said, there's some of these pieces around here that are chainsawed. Some of them are a little taller than others. Some of them have larger diameter than others, but this piece I've been staring at for a little while, and earlier on I actually seen my auger in my backpack, and I had no idea that I had it in there actually. This is typically what I use for like bushcraft, shelter building, and things of that nature. So a lot of people probably know what I'm doing here, and for those who don't, this is a Swedish fire torch. Basically, you drill a hole down through the log and then a hole in connecting those two holes. And what I've done is I've saved a lot of this wood chips that the auger basically digs up. And I like to save this for feeding the fire from the top. And basically what this does is it creates a stove. So you basically light a fire in this hole, stuffing this hole as well. And basically it'll burn up through the log. The log will become its own fuel, And there's a lot of different ways you can construct this, but the general way is drill a hole, and then you put 3 stones on top and you put your pan on top. And you just keep feeding little sticks in there, and the log will actually burn itself inside out. So you can have a pot or a pan on top of this and it'll just keep burning. So the general way of, the most common way of making these is with a chainsaw. You would do a cut down the center, a cut down the side, drill a hole, stuff the cuts with twigs and birch bark overlapping, going back and forth, light it, and it would take off and fire. This is a piece of hardwood. You want to generally use hardwood. I've never made one this small, which is the reason why I wanted to make this tonight. I've just been staring at it. I had this. I said, why not? Let's give it a go. I've never made one this small, and I've never made one certainly this small out of hardwood before. So it'll be interesting to see if it actually works. So I'm going to try and give it a go. I mean, hopes aren't very high on this, but I'm just looking at the holes. They're lined up pretty good. So I'm going to stuff a little bit of birch bark in here and light it. Now, like I said, there are many different ways of doing this. You can actually make these without an auger, without drilling holes. You can actually split the log in 4 pieces, and then when basically you have like a pie slice piece like this, you would then knock this point off, and then you take all 4 pieces and put them back together and bound it with a little piece of wire, and you'd end up with a hollow channel in the center. And then you can light the fire in the side and you get the same effect. But this is the most common way, I think, that you guys have probably seen here on YouTube. So this is a 1-inch auger, by the way. I'm just going to ream this out just a little bit more, because now that the holes are actually kind of intersecting, it did make a little bit of a mess. And what I like to do is bore these holes before you cut it off your log. So what I would generally do is I would find a log like this. I would bore a hole down, I'd bore a hole in, and then I'd take my saw and cut it off. That way you're not trying to wrestle this. I mean, this is a really small one, but you gotta kind of get the idea. It gets a little finicky and a little fiddly. So I'm gonna try and keep a lot of that dust that I'm kind of kicking up from making this hole. And I think we're pretty much ready to go. Let's stuff, I don't have high hopes on this. This is so small, it's hardwood, but it's just for fun. So let's give it a go and see if this works. Let me know right now, will this work or will it not work? Comment down below and don't change your comment. I want to see how many people actually think this is going to work and how many people think it's not going to work. I personally don't have high hopes. Let's see. All right, guys, we're on about 40, maybe 45 minutes of getting this going. It is actually burning right now. So, due to the size, and this is kind of the reason why I didn't think it was going to work, it's not tall enough to create a chimney effect, to actually draw in a draft. It is working though. Surprisingly, there's actually quite a bit of draft starting to happen right now. Now once I get the fire kicked up again, I can then feed in some of these twigs, but like I said, the problem is it's just not long enough or tall enough to create a chimney effect. So feeding this fire is really finicky because some of these pieces are almost too big for the air inlet. It's getting bigger because it's starting to burn out as it's supposed to, but feeding it is still a little difficult. So I'm just loading 2 pieces in there and letting it smolder for a second and waiting for it to catch, and then kind of loading a piece in the chimney to draw the fire up to then create a little bit of draft. As you guys can see, it is working. It's just a very, very slow process. So I guess the big question is, would I count this as a victory? Absolutely not. This would be a total waste of time. I could light 100 fires in the time that it would get this to burn. So the idea with the Swedish torch is a long, controlled fire that is essentially windproof in itself, because when you cut the log, you're able to then feed it. So a bigger Swedish torch is actually a lot easier to get going than a small one. I've never made one this small. If I would have made it out of softwood, I think it would have took off a little bit easier. I may come back to this, but I don't know. It seems to be doing something right now, actually. So maybe I should slow my roll on what I'm saying. It is totally a waste of time to do it this small, in my opinion. Now, Swedish torches are very useful in the winter time, I find. If you have a chainsaw, absolutely, you could just zing it down, cut a nice little X in there, load it, sandwich it full of birch bark. As I'm speaking, you guys can see it is kicking up and burning some of that wood gas. So it is a viable option, and it does work to cook on, but honestly, light a fire, just an open campfire, it works a lot better. But sometimes this is fun. Sometimes this is a little bit of a challenge, and I'm actually enjoying this right now quite a bit, because it's like nursing a tiny, tiny little finicky fire, and I find a little bit of joy in that. I have a massive background in bushcraft. I should probably mention that. I actually started off as a bushcrafter very, very many years ago as a young boy. I grew up in a remote island location where we actually were taught survival skills in and out of school. So I started my channel based on bushcraft, and it's just become so normal for me that I wanted to do something a little bit different, and that's the reason why I use a lot of tents and a lot of different things in my channel. But I kind of want to go back to my roots. I want to do some more bushcraft stuff. So let me know what you guys think about doing some bushcraft style videos. The reason why I stopped doing it is YouTube was just oversaturated with it, and yeah, everybody was doing it. So I kind of want to get back into it now. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Bushcraft themed videos. Like I said, I have a very, very extensive background in bushcraft, and I know there's a lot of new viewers on the channel since starting the channel. I mean, we're coming up on 500,000 now, so there's probably a few people that don't know that I have a very large background in bushcraft and are probably interested in seeing what I have to offer. So let me know in the comment section, and I may do that. Right now, I'm actually enjoying this quite a bit. I'm not even cooking anything on it. It's just the simple fact of it's telling me it doesn't want to, and I want it to. It's like lighting a fire and pouring rain. It's super easy. You just got to put the time in. Alright guys, so this is the beauty of a Swedish fire torch when it is working. This is doing its job. This is actually working really well. I'm actually quite surprised. It is full on self-sufficient right now. This outer bark is almost peelable. I'm going to leave it. Obviously I'm going to throw this in the fire. I don't need it. This is simply just an exercise, but I have to say, I did not think it was going to work this well, just because of how small it is. But that is hot water. That's not smoke, guys. That is like boiling water. Now, mind you, I only put about 300 milliliters of water in this pot, but that's hot water. Very hot water. And there is no flame. So this is working exactly as it should, as a medium-sized heat source. It is quite hot. It's very, very stable heat. Like putting my hand over there, I wouldn't be able to hold my hand. It is starting to scale away, so there's a lot of ridges and sharp edges where the flames and the heat can get in, but you'll notice there is no flame. So this is how these are supposed to burn. I'm just going to turn my headlamp off, and you guys can maybe see what happens here. There's no fuel in that. That is the actual Swedish torch burning by itself. So when you need it to kick up like that, like I had 2 sticks up there propped aside to keep the pot off the top, obviously, so it doesn't smother the hole. But that is doing its job. I'm super impressed. This is the smallest, absolute smallest Swedish fire torch I've ever made. And it's working. Boomer's coming to see. Come on. Boomer just woke up out of the tent. Hi. So, this is working. I just wanted to give you guys an update. The water has got, obviously, very hot, and you guys can see that this thing is totally working. Very, very well. And if you ever make a Swedish torch and the flames are burning and it's too hot and you don't want it to burn hot, simply just put your pot on it, smother it out for a second, and sometimes this fire will burn out rather quickly. You want to leave it on there until the flames stop altogether. Sometimes you can blow it out. Sometimes you just gotta wait. And basically capping it off will smother it out. Eventually, it's just like a wood stove. But if I take this off, it should take off again. Oh, it actually went out. Okay, I was wrong. Normally with a typical Swedish fire torch, you take it off and it just engulfs in flames again, but that actually creates a little bit of a vacuum. Now if I blow in it again, it'll take off. A little bit of flame starting to come up, and you basically build up your fire to the strength you need it. So it's kind of a variable heat source. Very interesting. But like I said, if you want to put a pot directly on there, it's not recommended because it will smother it out and it'll typically burn outside. You don't want it to burn outside, you don't want it to burn up through the torch. But this small size, if I pull it up fast, it extinguishes it, which is awesome. So I've had a lot of fun with this. I've actually learned quite a bit, even though I've been doing this my entire life. Like I said, I've never made one this small. It actually works totally opposite to a large one, in that when you pull the pot off, it goes out. Learned a little bit, shared a little bit, and like I said, if you guys are interested in more bushcraft videos, definitely let me know, because I could do that for you. Alright guys, just crawling inside of the tent right now. This is definitely cozy. So I should mention that I did not bring any matches or lighter or any kind of fire device on this trip other than my fire steel. That is something that I really enjoy doing in the winter time, oddly enough. And I do that just to force myself to use a little bit of skill, just to keep brushing up on that skill. So this is going really well. I borrowed a little flame from the campfire, brought it over, lit this. We'll get that going. Everything looks good. I did sweep the floor of the tent area when I set the tent up earlier today, just so I wasn't kind of kneeling around in this brush and stuff, just in case there are ticks still out here, which sometimes there are. Boomer is going to be coming inside here. I've got a little area set up for him. I got his sweater off too because that is filthy dirty, so we'll get him situated before he jumps in. You want to come? And yeah, we're just going to lounge with this tent door open for quite a while because, like I said, this stove is going to get this area really hot. I still have to put out the campfire, and I still got to put out that Swedish torch because that thing is a champ. That thing's actually going really, really well. And the other thing I'll mention with those is they work really great as mosquito repellents because they smoke when it's not flaming up. So if you blow the flame out and let it smoke, it'll smolder for a very long time, creating smoke and no flame, which keeps the bugs away, which is great, and a very, very hot coal heat source for cooking and reheating things. So they are useful. I just, honestly, if I needed to make coffee, I would make a campfire. I wouldn't waste my time with that. But if I was in camp for 2-3 days, I'd make one, and I would just let it smolder all day and, you know, reheat things, use it for crafting, whatever I'm doing at that particular time. They're very useful for that, especially in the wind. So this is going really well. I am going to be damping this down. Unfortunately, I did suffer quite a bit of burn holes in the tent just today. I could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 holes in my tent today. Just today. So, yeah, it's hot tent season. So you're never going to get away from that. I'll mention that right now. Anyone going hot tenting, worrying about burning your tent, it's not going to catch on fire. It will melt. Okay? So they're little controlled melt holes, and basically what that's from is burning all the softwood. A lot of softwood is going to spit little embers, it's going to float, it's going to land on the tent, it's going to melt the hole, it's going to go out. It's not going to burst into flames. It's a very easy fix, and if you're worried about this, the only way around it is don't go hot tenting, to be totally honest. This is normal. I carry a little tube of silicone with me, like bathroom silicone clear, and just a little tiny tube, and put a little dollop on there, and it's fixed. You can put a patch kit on it if you really want to, but if you're using your tent a lot, you're going to be accustomed to burn holes, and it's honestly, it's just part of the game. So this one up here directly over the sleeping area is actually rather large, about the size of a dime. So that's unfortunate. The others are in the vestibule area, in the wood stove area, which I'm not terribly concerned about. There's no rain in the forecast, but yeah, kind of a bummer. There are a few holes in it. I'll have to patch them, a little bit of silicone, and yeah, war wounds. So we'll get this stove burning some of this hardwood that I've collected now that, oh yeah, we got a coal base in there now. We'll load one of these pieces of hardwood in there. And as you load wood in, try not to poke it around a whole lot. That will stir the coals and spit them out the chimney and burn your tent. So I've also cleared out the bottom of the stove and placed rocks around and underneath of it. I do that for 2 reasons. One, I want the rocks to hold the stove steady so I don't bump it and it goes all wonky and whatnot, because it is actually unlevel, so the rocks are actually making the stove level. Secondly, to protect the ground from burning. So you'll notice a little ember just fell out, and that's another reason why I cleared this out. You don't want leaf litter catching on fire when you're in your tent, because that's bad. So that's all cleaned out, looking very good. Leather gloves I typically leave right here, then I know right where they're at. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. So I'm going to get this light shut off, get that fire put out, and I'm going to relax inside the tent, keep an eye on these little ember holes, and I'll catch you guys in the morning for some hot coffee. Good night, guys. Good morning, everybody. It is a brisk and cool but sunny and somewhat warm morning today. Kind of a mixed bag of weather. Honestly, I think it's the hot tent and the coffee that's giving that warm effect, because I can actually see my breath quite well this morning. So the sun is peeking up directly out the front door of the tent, which is shining in, which is always nice to kind of bask in that warmth there before lighting the wood stove. As you guys can see, that thing is pumping out some heat, the door wide open. Man, that was warm last night. I had the mesh zipped shut because there were some squirrels actually running around, which was crazy. Midnight, squirrels running around, scurrying through the ground, poking their head in the tent, trying to look, getting Boomer all riled up and stuff. So I zipped the mesh shut just to keep them out. And that seemed to work for a while. After I watched a movie on my phone that I had saved, I ended up zipping the outer door shut. The moisture did set in. So a lot of things out here are quite moist right now. Just that dew in the air. It's not frost. I really wanted it to be frost, but I think we got a couple more weeks yet. So just over here by the campfire, enjoying my morning coffee. And this is what is left of my Swedish torch. Pretty awesome. I'm actually really happy that that experiment worked out. I mean, it's not a waste of time, but to put that much time into experimenting and just playing and having fun with something, you learn a lot of valuable skills. This actually worked better than I thought. So I kind of underestimated myself there in the size of this, and this just the uses and the practicality of it. Small Swedish torch, a lot of time after you have camp set up, I would say that would be useful. Trying to get to camp, it's cold and windy and wet and you want to have a coffee, just light a campfire, way faster. But that is awesome for during the day. Just let it smolder, let it do its thing for hours. That thing will burn for hours without any attention needed, no firewood needed, no fuel. The log is its own fuel. It's very self-sufficient once it's burning. So, having a look around this forest, it is very nice today. With the sun up, it is difficult to see all of the colors, but once the sun dips behind a cloud or sunset in early morning, these reds and oranges and yellows are very vibrant. So I was hoping today was actually going to be an overcast day. It looks like it's going to be fairly sunny. The sky is total blue right now, other than a cloud or two. So yeah, not a whole lot going on up there, unfortunately. I love fall rainy days, and in fact I named my daughter Autumn Rain, just because I love that season and I love it when it rains in the fall. Beautiful. Got a campfire or a wood stove, just the smell and the sounds of the forest. Overcast, the colors are popping. Beautiful. So hopefully we'll get some of that very soon. But right now, this coffee's calling my name. Cheers, guys. Let's enjoy some morning coffee. Alright guys, I've got everything packed up inside the bag. Quite a slow morning today, getting up, very peaceful out here. And I just kind of took things to myself and just very slow paced. Got the tent, the stove, everything packed inside of the bag. And it's basically time to get out of here. So the sun is still coming up a little bit, still early morning. But I had a really great time on this trip, and I do want to hike out of here before it gets too warm today. So everything in the pack going on my back. I got to get Boomer. He's over here chasing little chickadees and birds and whatnot. So we're going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and don't forget to drop your comments down below. And peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.